Just record and start.
Wait.
Can you record this right now? Okay.
Tired.
What are you tired of?
Tired of a lot of things. Maybe this election is making me tired.
The election's making you tired? Why?
I think because there's just so much writing on this election. You know, it's not just the presidential election, but never before in my life has state elections meant so much to me, and also U.S. congressional seats, obviously, but it just seems a little bit different, you know, like it's just, you know, like Mary Poppins, like the winds have changed.
Winds in the east,
and you can just
mist coming in.
You can feel a shift
like
and something happening.
Something's a brewing, about to begin.
Yeah.
That one?
Yeah, something like that.
But to me, it's like it's an exciting time. How can you be? It's like, so are the winds changing in a good way or a bad way for you?
I don't know if there's. I don't know. I don't know if it matters which way the winds change. You know, just how we are able to move accordingly. You know, like the sails, like we can use it to still move in the ways that we want to go, but it's still a lot of work.
You sound discouraged. Are you discouraged?
I think of a lot of things. I was telling my sister, so yesterday was June 25th, and been waiting for this primary election day all year, and just think about everything leading up to this day. Okay, so it didn't even just start with elections for us. It started with legislative session, and
oh my gosh, yeah,
and going through the 45 days of that, and then going to caucus and convention, and then going to your meet and greets, your town halls, your debates, your county conventions leading up to state convention, and then doing all the prep work for primary elections. And it just feels like 5 years have gone by in the last 6 months. Like, so much has happened, and then add on top of that the presidential election that's happening, you know, in the country, and the whole world is watching America. And anyways, yesterday I was just like geared for it. I was like, yup, got my Lyman t-shirt, mowed the lawn, you know, was very productive during the day. And then once like 8 p.m. hit and I started watching the results, I started to feel anxious and kind of like, what is that girl's name on Tangled, where she, you know, when she comes out of the tower, she's like, best day ever, and then she's like, I'm the worst daughter ever. You know, and I think that was just kind of like me, where I'm like, yes, I'm like, no, we can do this, oh my gosh, you know, like, woo. And then I was just like, at the end of the night, after seeing the results at the end of last night, I just was not expecting that. I was not expecting to see the convention winners perform so poorly. And and I think that was like just pretty devastating for me, because
my convention winner is winning. One is still winning.
Yeah.
Heidi Baldry, congratulations.
Good job, Heidi. But I was just overwhelmed, and I think that that's just carried over to today, just overwhelmed by you know, the others who made it onto the primary ballot, who didn't make it out of convention, got onto the primary ballot because they gather signatures, and the majority of them have been winning in these primary elections. And that to me is overwhelming, because I just see the disconnect between ordinary citizens and civic engagement, and the continued amount of work that needs to be done. Like, we've already been doing a lot of work just for the past 6, almost 7 months, and just getting to this
like, no,
point.
we've been doing more work since before the last 6 or 7
Right.
months. We've had work and discussions for years,
Right.
but the work that we've been doing at this point in time in the last 6 months,
It's just kind of like how I felt when I was a youth on the Pioneer Trek. Like, every time we got over one little hill, there was another one. You know, and we were like, okay, it's, you know, we're almost there, and we get over the hill, and then there's another one, and you're just like, okay, are we even making progress? You know, I guess that's just like,
it's kind of, well,
the
for me, that's
feeling
like
for me right
switchbacks,
now.
when you're just switching back and forth when you're hiking a mountain, and you have these switchbacks, and it's like, we're almost there. It's like, why is the almost there still there? Almost there. It's like, I can't see the,
Well, and, you know, I guess I should know, as a student of liberty, I should know that there's not a destination.
Yeah.
You know, the journey of liberation and being, and not being in bondage, that's continuous. You know, you don't ever get to a place of like, we are absolutely free. 'Cause
that's so frustrating. You know, okay, so it's like swatting a fly. It's like, when you swat the fly dies, and then it never comes back again. But for some reason, these are like super what flies? Like, they're resistant to dying. They're like mold. It just keeps growing.
Well, and in this case, I know that, you know, like, I guess my feelings of despair, not utter despair, it's just kind of like, you know, you get done with like your triceps and your biceps, and then you're like, oh, tomorrow's leg day, and you're like, oh, wow, you know, I worked so hard today only to have to come back tomorrow and do the same thing. And I guess there's just a really selfish part of me that wants to see the improvement. Like my sister said, we've been working really hard intentionally for the past 6 months, but we've been doing this and having these discussions for decades.
Yeah.
And how do you invite ordinary citizens to a discussion?
See, and the ironic thing is, I think this is a really exciting time.
Of course you would.
No, I'm not trying to be Pollyanna and to say, well, let's just play the glad game. You know, I'm just going to find something to be glad about. In fact, I remember, like, as I'm talking about this, I remember trying to be happy about something. And talking to my daughter about it, to Tia. And she just says, okay, Bob Brass. It's like, happy little accidents kind of a thing. It's like, you're not... I don't believe that these things are accidents. These things are happening,
and I don't either. And
but I'm really excited.
I don't think it's a bad thing either. It's just kind of one of those, like, okay, I'm just gonna take a little quick breather, and just, you know.
But this is kind of like watching The Lord of the Rings, where you're seeing, you know, the battle at Helm's Deep, and they're just fighting and fighting and fighting, and it's like, do you see any end in sight?
Only to prepare for their battle at Minas Tirith.
Yeah. So it just continues. It doesn't end.
Oh, yeah. Well, and I know that. I guess I just want that thing so bad. You know, I just want that, like, that connection, that, like, that community, that kind of people who's going to go to battle for their families, for God and country, for liberty and freedom for their posterity. I want that.
Yeah.
And I know that it's there and it's still coming out of the soil. But I would still like to see a little leaf or something. You just show me that you're alive.
To show that this is working. Well, you know, I don't know. And maybe the reason why I think it's my jam is because of my so this situation, civics is something I really enjoy, and I've studied for a while, but self advocacy and learning to push through those to push through the uncertainties, that's my jam. That's where I love it. And the reason why is because my husband has been in a situation like that, where it's just like one problem after another problem
What
after another
problems?
problem. So my husband has had open heart surgery 4 times. On the 4th time, he nearly
When was
died.
the first time he had his?
Uh,
Saya, I get to ask you the questions now.
okay. So we've been married. It'll be 31 years this year, and of those 31 years, 5 of them have been without heart issues. Actually, I lied. It's the whole time we've had heart issues. We just never had to deal with the actual issues until his first open heart surgery in 1998. So he had surgery, open heart surgery in 1998. We had 2 kids. Then he had it again in 2005, 7 years later. Then he had it again 5 years later. Then he had it again. So he had his last one in 2017. And since 2017, from then until now, in like almost 7 years, we're still having issues. We have issues with his heart rhythm that's going in and out, and he's needing to get shocked. I mean, needing to get his heart shocked back into normal rhythm often. He currently has another heart leak. Like a heart valve leak in his tricuspid valve. So he has mechanical valves on his Anyway, long story short, it's just one issue after another. And for some reason, we have learned to find joy and gratitude and hope through each issue. It's like, oh, this is what's going on. This has just informed informed us of what we can continue to expect to learn or to study up on, or to learn how to, what to work through. And it's been such an amazing, incredible experience. So this situation, I saw Phil and Jody last night, as well as Natalie, at the election party, and watching their faces, I can relate to that so much, because I've been through, I haven't been through what they're going through in terms of elections, but I know what it's like to face uncertainty and to stay hopeful through the uncertainty. That for me is my jam. I love that.
I think for me, where I am struggling is that, like, so Tony's surgery was in 1998. Yeah, I'm like, so is this like 1998 or is it 2017?
The situation?
Yeah, like I'm really impatient, so I'm impatient about everything, about freedom, the savior returning, like everything. And I want it yesterday. And I know Heavenly Father is just always pulling, just, daughter, slow down. And these things that that look to me as like one more thing to have to take care of is actually the thing in disguise. Like, and it's not that, the results are still happening. They haven't been finalized.
Right.
But I guess I thought that we have been working so hard, and I just felt like that wasn't being reflected. And then therefore, like, holy cow, like, I guess just
I'm actually curious. I really want to ask this question to those of you who voted not for Phil Lyman. What has been your view of the work that's been going on? Perhaps you may not agree with the things that those who voted for Lyman thought or felt or did, but did you notice that there was work going on? Could you see that people were trying to work on behalf of Phil Lyman and Natalie Clausen? And if so, I think then that something good has come about. They did notice that. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I
So
think.
not to ignore that.
Me and my sister were talking about this yesterday, and to me, one of the things that I had a hard time with knocking doors was, I didn't want people to see me as like, to get me mixed up with a signature gatherer, or with somebody who was just trying to like a businessman, you know, like, hey, you should vote for this person because they're great. And yesterday while we were talking, I was just, because my sister made the comment or asked the question, she said, do you think that we're going too far, like too extreme?
Yeah, I did
like
ask
too
that
far
question.
right? And I said, I think anytime a party or people go too far, whichever way you're going, left, right, north, south, is when you can tell when they're going that way, when they're propping up people as their saviors instead of principles. And one of the things that I have a legitimate fear of with President Trump. So in 2020, I voted for President Trump because I felt like he was going to represent principles better than President Biden. And now I still feel that same way, but I do fear that people are so fixated on President Trump saving America. Or, you know, you could put in any other politician in any seat. Like, we have to vote for this person because they're going to save our district. They're going to save our state. They're going to save our, like, school board, whatever. Versus voting for people who understand sound principles of government. And you holding them accountable to those principles. Like, I don't need President Trump to save America. I need the people to step up and shoulder the burden and the blessing of taking care of our country. Our country doesn't need to be saved. She needs to be taken care of. She needs to be nurtured. And that can only happen by principles and small and simple things. Neighbor to neighbor, caucus to caucus, district to district, state to state, one at a time. And I think it's unfair to put that burden on people of like, you have to save all of us. You have to take into consideration all of the, you know, like, imagine how many people are coming up to these individuals running for office, and they're like, you know, whether it's veterans or teachers or immigrants or, you know, like whatever it is, like, you know, like, okay, I have to save everyone. No, you don't. You don't have to save everyone.
Yeah.
We can hold the mana.
And what does it mean to save everyone? What are you saving them?
Well, and not only that, but why is there like this fear? Why does this fear of like, okay, we got to find somebody who we think is going to do the job and they're going to be the answer. Like why do we do that?
It's like, well, what do you think the answer is? What's a better thing to say instead of, we think you're going to save it? I don't think that that's a thing.
I think it's
what it is you're going to save it. As in you and you and you and you. You're going to save it.
Well, and I think it's just another form of idolatry. You know, but also at the core of it, not just an absence of abundance, but an absence of faith and trust in the soil, in principles, in your relationships with individuals, because this election is just a huge, it's not an eye-opener, but like, I've just been thinking, like, you know, I'll ask these candidates questions and like, how are you going to keep in connection with your constituents and the residents of the state, you know, and they'll say these things. But after last night watching the results come in, I was like, okay, I'm sorry, I cannot wait for you to do that. I need to do that.
But the thing is, I mean, like, think about it though. What are some consequences that could happen of this situation if those who are convinced, like those who trust the caucus system or believe in the caucus system, sees this happening? I mean, like, my initial thought was, I think people are going to defect from the Republican Party. I don't know what they would do, but would there be another party of Republican parties? Do you know what I mean?
But,
and I don't.
But something that I also learned this year is that the caucus and convention system cannot work without connection.
Ooh. So explain that.
So, like, because you go to caucus, we elect people to be county and state delegates. They go and vet the candidates. They go to county convention. They go to state convention. They vote for people. Those people are on the primary ballot. But only 4,000 people out of the state of Utah were not to say that there weren't other people who still went to vet these candidates during those times who weren't elected at caucus, but we can't rely on 4,000 people. Like, they're voting to put people on the primary election, but then what about their precincts? The 1,200 people in each of their precincts that don't know anything about their candidates. And I've just been thinking a lot about that because after convention, I was like, okay, I'm gonna go and I'm gonna knock doors and talk to my laborers about these candidates. And as I was knocking the doors, what I realized was I actually just need to get to know my neighbors. Like, hi, my name's Tiana. What's your name?
Oh my god.
Because, like, who like, I'm so stupid. Like, who am I to go and say, hey, let's fight for liberty and freedom. Oh, and by the way, what's your name? Steven. Hi, nice to meet you, Steven. Yeah. Like, it just comes across, like, where's the monarchy? Where's the like coming together and bringing in?
Where's the community?
Yeah. And without connection, without community, and it has to be sincere, caucus and convention are begin at caucus, end at convention.
Interesting. So how would you have changed that? I mean, like, well, I now know what I would do differently. I would improve my relationships with everyone in my precinct. Yeah. Get to know everybody, all 1,200 of them.
Well, and just like, I was just thinking about that for the next 2 years, the next 4 years. I'm like, I am going to get to know my neighbors, and not because of election and not because, of candidates that I believe in, but because I want to get to know them. And I want to know why they vote the way that they vote. Like, one of the other things we were talking about yesterday is that when in our discussions, I'll just speak for myself. I always try to point back to principles, because it doesn't matter if you're a libertarian, an independent, a Democrat, a Republican, like, whatever party you affiliate, we all fuck up back to principles. We all trace our lineage back to principles. And so as long as I can point back to the whakapapa, to that soil, then we all connect. And my hope is that bringing that out of the soil will help them to understand, okay, so let's compare this to an independent's policies, a libertarian's policies, a Democrat's policies, a Republican's policy. Do they whakapapa back to the soil?
To the soil of principle.
Yes. Okay. And if so, and if not, like, we can find our connection there. And anyways. But really quickly, so what are your thoughts about,
this
your
situation?
Question? Well, yeah, just your question yesterday of, like, is this going
to... Well, I mean, like, because I was...
extreme, too far right?
I was just looking at what's been going on at the federal level with the presidential campaigns, how it's gone from one extreme to the other. People don't want Trump, so they go the total opposite and go Biden. I mean, like, and then it's now just becoming more extreme. It's becoming more polarized. There is no gray. There is no middle ground. There is nothing. It's just one or the other. Are states heading that same direction as well? Not just at the federal level, but at the state level too. Meaning, could there be separations of parties where you have the Republican Party, the kind of sort of Republican Party, the not convention Republican Party, the not signature Republican Party? You know what I mean? Because it could break it all up. And what it seems to be doing is when you have those extremes, it appears that there can be a tendency to go toward those types of extremes.
Well, and I think that people go to the extremes because they have forgotten the genealogy. and the genealogy has been replaced with like the fear of something happening, the fear of, illegal immigrants coming in, the fear of, the whole country going bankrupt, the fear of like,
so it becomes polarizing. So it's like a polarizing,
but I'm saying just like the fear becomes a motivator for like, we have to find something fast and we have to prop them up. And it just actually made me think about something. So in our culture, whenever we get together with family members, growing up, so my dad or my mommy would introduce me to an auntie and an uncle that I haven't seen since I was little, and they'll say, "This is your auntie, my auntie Mele. She is the daughter of so and so who raised your grandpa, who lived here." Okay, so our parents would do that, our whole lives growing up. This is how you connect to this person. This is how you connect to this person. And it wasn't until I got older that I started to panic, because I realized like, oh, I need to remember that, because I'm going to have to explain that to my nieces and nephews, to my own babies. And I feel like when it comes to these different parties and the possibility of going to the extreme, maybe we're not asking people, okay, so who are you and how do we connect? Like, tell me that lineage of liberty and freedom as a candidate. Like, fuck up with that back to the soil, to the both of us.
Because it becomes less about being an American and more about being a party. I mean, like a party person. It's like that becomes a separation. The connection ought to be America. It really should.
Yeah, and it becomes everything like around principles. It's the likeness of principles. It's the likeness of I'm trying to think of the preamble, and it's just left my mind. Established justice. It's the likeness of blessings to ourselves and our posterity, but it's not the actual thing. And I don't know about you, but I went to we were at Crown Burgers, remember that one time making the video, and we got their vanilla ice cream, and it had a likeness. It looked like vanilla ice cream. It was cold like vanilla ice cream, but it tasted like doo-doos. Okay, did we eat most of it? Yes, we did. But we don't want the likeness of liberty or freedom. We want the real deal, and to me, you can feel the difference in the mana of someone when you can feel the real deal. You can have your own experience with that, but
it's true.
Anyways, so how do we not, go that far, right? Not to say that I don't see our state, well, I mean, we'll see what happens with this election, but how do we stay within the soil and close to principles, and no matter where you lie on the political,
I think first and foremost it's realizing that it's not a person, it's not in a person, it's in each of us, it's in you. It begins with you, it begins with me, it begins with the individual understanding and knowing for himself and herself those things, because it's really hard to, I don't know how to explain that well. Do you think you can?
Well, I don't mean to get like Book of Mormonish too, but to me it's like the difference between it's like when it's the difference between pointing back to principles versus saying I am the principle.
Ooh.
Which you gotta watch it, family, because there are candidates out there that are like, hey, you vote for me and you'll have liberty. You vote for me and you won't be in bondage. No, bro. I vote for you and you exercise those principles just like I am, and we won't be in bondage. I don't need you to. You are not freedom. You are not liberty. You don't hold that mana.
No. And it's no respecter of persons. It really isn't. So,
which is really nice.
Yeah, it is. Freedom is, I mean, and when I say that freedom is not a respecter of persons, no one can control it. They can try. They can really try. But in the end, it always, I mean, like, freedom is either lost or won by people who obey it.
Yeah. It's like one of those, like,
because you can't own it. You can't.
Freedom and liberty is a part of all of us, but none of us own it.
You can't own it without understanding its principles.
I'm really grateful.
Yeah.
For that, because I mean that means that we are all accountable and students.
Yeah. Everyone is a student.
Yeah.
Because the way that we live our lives determines, I mean, like, just at the most basic, at the most individual level, our freedom is based on our choices. And we can't get away from those consequences. No matter how much it can be legislated, you still can't get away from it. Because it just creates more problems if you try to legislate it.
Well, and, you know, your experience with you and Tony, like, you haven't been able to get away from the reality that he's had 4 open heart surgeries and things are still uncertain.
And it's not, I mean, like, no amount of legislation is going to make his heart go better.
Yeah.
I mean, no. So he's got to learn. I mean, like, we are learning to work with what we have, with what we know. We can't change it. If he wants to live, he's got to work with it. And so that's the same thing with freedom. You want it, you got to work with it.
And I do want to live, and I do want to work with it. I guess did you just tell me to, like, shut up and just keep working hard? Yeah.
Nah. But I really am so hopeful. I feel hopeful for it. I haven't gone running in a month, but I will start next week. But when I would run outside, and there were times that I hated running in the wind because it was so, I hate, if there's anything I despise more than running in the cold, it's running in the wind, because I feel so, like, I don't feel like I'm moving when the wind is so strong. And there are times I get really, really discouraged when I'm running against the wind or running into the wind. And the thing that inspires me the most is to see the trees in the wind. They may bend as far as the wind will blow on it, but they never break. They still remain standing at the end. And that's what I want, not just for myself, but for all of us. So
we can do it.
Yeah. So in the face of storms, in the face of the winds, to remain calm, man. That's so huge for me.
Which just seems like, you know, not what I want to do. I feel like tense and, you know, need to go to battle. Which, I mean, you can still be calm in the midst of battle.
Which is what I've seen in Phil and Jody. I saw that in them last night. I saw that sense of calmness in spite of all that's going on and what could be viewed as turmoil. Talking to Jody was so calming, was so grounding, was a great reminder to me that all of this is so much bigger than even them. And they understand that too. Much respect.
Kia ora te whanau. Let's go.
Yep. Bye.
Ka kite ano o whalahi atu.
Ka kite ano o whalahi atu.